Heather is a nurse practitioner from United Healthcare.
We meet patients wherever they live.
During a house call, she found Jack had an issue.
Jack's blood pressure was dangerously high.
It was 217 over 110.
So they got Jack to the hospital and got him the help he needed.
He had had a stent placed in his heart, preventing a massive heart attack.
If it wasn't for my guardian angel, I wouldn't be here.
Hear more stories like Jack's at unitedhealthcare.com. Benefits, features, and/or devices vary by plan, area, limitation, and exclusions apply.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Be Fierce and Try podcast. I'm here today with a professional triathlete, Meg Dirito, and she's hot off of her race at Eagleman, busy planning the rest of her season and next year. And I'm super excited to have you on, Meg. Should we start with talking about Eagleman? You want to tell us, how did the race go for you? It looked like for a lot of folks, the swim was a bit challenging. I saw some interesting times on the bike as well, which you wouldn't normally expect on a generally flat course. So how'd it go?
I think overall, it's not really what I had expected. Like, if you look at overall time-wise, and then if you look at each individual sport by itself, I do consider myself a fairly strong swimmer, which I feel like a lot of us had some issues in the swim. It was very choppy, hard to keep in the packs, hard to swim straight. At certain points, it was hard to tell where anybody was. So it was kind of just a, try to get through the swim and get to the other end, basically.
I mean, that's what I'm used to hearing everyone as I wait, and I'm usually starting 20, 30 minutes behind you.
Yeah. Oh.
It's survive the swim. But do you think, so you've been doing a lot of competition in Masters lately, and I've been doing quite well with that, at least based on everything I see online. Do you think that very short transition from, competing in pools to straight into a choppy open water may have, had part of it, or just, luck of the day?
I think it was probably luck of the day, because the week before I swam open water cable nationals and ended up coming second, which I'm happy with, off of a two-time Olympian that got first. So
that's a pretty good finish.
Yeah, so I was very happy with my swim at nationals. I felt like it was very strategic. The water was very calm, so it was able to, keep your pacing. You were able to see the packs in front of you. I was able to change my speed, my stroke rate. So it was a lot of what my coach and I work on. I was able to do that. So I know what I'm capable of doing, but getting into the water at Eagleman, it's kind of all that just kind of went out the window. And it was this is just going to be a swim where you're just going to have to get from one end to the other, because the chop was just so hard. You couldn't do stroke rate or sighting or anything like that. I tried to keep with people, but we were all over the place. So it just didn't make for my ideal swim.
Looking at the replay on, I guess it's outdoor in the US, looking at the replay, even the announcers were having a hard time tracking who was where, because everyone was all over the place and kind of spread out more than normal.
Yeah, and especially with how we all start in a really long line. Mm-hmm. And obviously everybody kind of wants to file in towards the buoys, and that's when you start to form your packs, but when you're fighting that chop and you can't see where you're going, it's just kind of a hodgepodge and everyone's all over the place. So this was definitely a swim where drafting per se was difficult to do. Just trying to swim a straight line.
Yeah. If you can't find the pack, you have no one to draft off of.
No.
So any jellyfish things in your swim?
Yes, I got stung about 6 times. I think there was actually one that hung a ride on the bottom of my kit because it kept stinging. Because normally they would sting and then kind of go away. So we weren't wetsuit legal. We had to wear swim skins.
Right. And what is wetsuit legal for the pros?
Anything 71.6 and below.
Okay, so
So
4
it was
degrees
like
difference.
70. Yeah, it was like 72 or 73 that day, which I was super happy about. I would much rather swim with a swim skin than a wetsuit.
I had some athletes there who were doing their first 70.3 and they were like, oh, thank God it's wetsuit legal for them.
I just feel like my swims are I have trouble with mobility being in wetsuit, and I feel like I can actually really swim when my arms aren't bound in this like big thing of rubber. So I was happy about that. But yes, I did get stung multiple times.
Yeah, I feel like you have to, with a like full arm wetsuit, you have to work so much harder.
Yes, you do. And then
Your body position's better, but you have to work so much harder to move forward.
And just mobility with your shoulders too.
All right. Swim didn't go quite how you expected, but how'd the rest of the race go?
The bike was okay. It was actually a really fun bike. I enjoyed the scenery. I liked being out there. There was hardly any cars. The road was not shut down for us, so we had a little bit of like hesitation in the pro meeting as far as like, which side to ride on, because there was like a rumble strip in the center. Do we ride in on the road part or like the shoulder? But it seemed like we all kind of figured it out. I mean, the bike for me my nutrition was good. I had fun with it. I stayed with a couple girls for quite a while. I did see some of the age group men. They tend to like to zoom past and make their way to the front per usual. So, which made hard because
that's not new.
Yeah, because we have race rangers, so that tells us how far apart we have to be, but it's really hard when the guys kind of slot in between us. So it makes it hard to keep the distance. So we're trying to follow rules, but,
Yeah. So what's your nutrition strategy on the bike?
So I've always had a sensitive stomach, so I do all liquid nutrition. And I do about a bottle per hour. It's about I want to say like 400 calories, 90 grams of carbs. I use the Scratch Super Fuel with carb powder and a caffeine powder in there. So I just drink all of my calories.
See, I tried that. And every time I tried that, by the time I got to the run, my stomach was wanting to empty itself.
Okay. Well, everyone's different,
Yeah.
I don't do well with eating anything. Nothing solid for me.
Okay. Yeah, my coach and I are trying to figure out like, I consistently on fulls, consistently get to about mile 16, and then my belly is like, please empty me.
Yeah.
And like the rest of the race is like crap after that because
no.
feeling through the whole race. It's like, so that's what we're trying to figure out at the moment.
Yeah.
But
I think it's tough. It's just like changing things constantly in training and figuring out like what works for you. But again, every race is different too.
So the bike, aside from, random age group men sliding in with the women, how'd it go?
It was okay. I feel like my bike strength, is okay. I don't compare to some of the top pros at this point. They're just really, really strong bikers. And it's definitely something that I am working on and comes with time. I mean, I'm definitely a swimmer for sure. Biking I love. Running would be my nemesis.
Running is your nemesis?
Yeah.
Really? I would not have thought that.
Oh, yes. We've been battling back and forth for many years, me and running.
So tell me about that.
It's funny because when I do standalone races running, I do actually really well, and I can place in the top or top overall.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised. I've seen your placements in like single sport races, and they're always very good.
Yeah, and I think I'm able to keep pacing, but whenever it comes to, I just have had a hard time trying to mesh that with a triathlon, because it seems like anytime I get to the run, my pacing doesn't seem to go as planned. It's definitely a lot slower than what I'm capable of. I seem to do better in the fulls. I feel like I can go my pacing for longer. So it's definitely my distance. 70.3s, I feel like is still a bit of a sprint, especially when you're comparing to the other girls that are running in the 5s and the 6s. Like, I'm not there. So
yeah, I did Chattanooga 70.3, was that a month and a month ago, and no swim. So it was my first time trial start.
Okay.
And, I'm really strong on the bike, but not as strong on the run. It's like my worst of the three sports.
Yeah.
And I was like first off the bike in my age group, but I ended up coming in like 13th or something because these women were like passing me doing like 550s and six the whole day. And I'm like,
yeah,
like, can we bring the swim back to slow them down?
Yep, exactly. It's like you're either, and my husband and I always talk about it, you're either one of the three sports, like naturally,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I feel like the swimmers always have a hard time running because they're water animals almost, so it's like you get to the run and they're like, I'd rather be swimming. And then you find like the runners are super fast, but they're not as good on the swim, but it's a lot shorter than the run. So they can make up, the gap.
Right. And the bike is like the equalizer.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like everyone I know in triathlon came from either swimming or running. I don't know anyone personally in triathlon who came from cycling.
Yeah. My husband came from cycling.
But I don't know him, so the rule stands.
He's not a swimmer, not a runner, but a very good cyclist.
Yeah.
So he actually taught me to ride my bike.
Well, that was nice of him.
Way back when, yeah.
And now you're in the pro field and he's not.
I'm sure he could have if he kept putting the work in.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So the run didn't, the run went how the run went.
Yeah.
Any like reflecting back, if you had to change anything, would you change anything?
Wow. Within my control?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't change the weather.
Okay.
Or the chop, but like within your control, like how you prepared for the race or anything that you did on race day, would you have done anything differently?
I don't think I would have done anything differently. I think my training coming up to it has been great. I have been racing a lot in the pool though, and open water. But I would never change that because that's what I like. That is my first love. So I would never give that up. I was happy because my husband was there. He hasn't seen me race in a really long time. He was able to hang out with Reese and cheer for Lucy and myself, although she was a lap ahead of me.
Well,
so I wouldn't have changed anything. I was happy with, I wish I could have run faster, but you just live for another day and you just keep working harder,
Well, and that's what these are, is they all end up being learning events.
Exactly. And not, I don't think I've ever had a race where I was like, everything in that race was 100% perfect. Like that will never happen ever.
Yeah. I'd love to see that race myself.
Yeah, me too.
So, okay. So that went down. The last race you did, was it Cozumel?
Yeah. In November.
And so what's next?
Louisville in August.
And that's a river swim, right?
I think so, yeah.
Or is it a lake swim?
I think it's a river swim.
Yeah. Well, so that should be fun and a little bit warmer.
I'm excited for that.
Hopefully flatter for you.
I was going to race sooner, and I think the hardest thing for me is I want to race more, but I'm not able to because my kids have such a demanding race schedule that it doesn't allow me to.
So that's like where I thought we'd spend like a lot of time today is like I'm super busy. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. They both have their thing and I have my thing, and I do race a lot. And I'm like, but I almost have an advantage in that I'm divorced. So it's like there's a completely separate household to take care of the kids when I'm doing my own thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you have that going on, but like, how do you manage that balance between like your, your sporting career with theirs? And your children, both from everything I've seen, look very successful in their own right too.
Yeah, I think so. My kids have been in sports since they were 18 months old. So they haven't been out of sport at all. They both have just seemed to grow into the love of swimming. My son started when he was 6, swimming competitively. And my daughter, she did gymnastics and swimming at the same time at the age of 8. And fell in love with swimming. So then she decided to pursue that. So we moved to another team that was more competitive. So my kids growing up they don't know life outside of sport. So to them, like training and being dedicated, like that is part of their life. So they see me and they've seen me, growing up, like training, and being organized and planning. And so they know what it takes to get to where they want to go. So they're just used to it, I guess.
And how old are they again?
So my son is 10 and my daughter, she's 12 right now.
So my daughter's 12. My son is 15, almost 16. And about a year ago was when, maybe a year and a half ago, was when in like the 10K distance, he got faster than me. Mm-hmm. And then last fall, he ran his first half marathon faster than me. And it was such a humbling experience for me when now my son in half marathons is sitting at the finish line like, Mom, I finished 20 minutes ago. What took you so long?
You're like, that is kind of humbling because you're like, finally, they've reached that point where they are able to do it on their own. One, and you've got them to that point where they feel confident and they're good at what they do.
Right. And they're confident enough to do it without you by their side. As like, it's like at the start line, we start next to each other. And then I just watch him trot off into the distance and finish with like the top 5 guys. And then he's like, that's great. You came in second in your age group. He's like, age groups are for losers.
I think my most humbling moment was, so Lily loves open water just as much as I do. And when she was 8, we started her in open water, and my husband and I used to swim beside her in the races, and we would cattle shoot her. So she would be in the middle, and so that she felt like we were there. And at the age of 10, she actually started just swimming by herself. And this year, I watched her prep for her own open water race by herself, and I watched her stand on that podium as second overall female against 50, 40, 30-year-olds, just standing up there. Like, she has gotten to that point where she is so good and she is so confident out there.
Wow, that's amazing.
And very talented. But I mean, it's taken years of like swimming with her and teaching her and getting that confidence to be out there alone.
Well, it sounds like she has quite a career ahead of her.
I think so. I mean, she loves swimming. She does prefer the pool, but she's also very good at open water too. My son doesn't like open water. He's very good at the pool, but he does not like open water. So
yeah, I have one child who loves to be in the pool, but has no desire to lap swim. I have another one who loves to be in open water, but has no desire to swim between the buoys.
Yeah.
So
it'll come around, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, last year at the AC Tri, my son was second on the podium, but he was last out of the water. But, he was last out of the water, passed everyone on the bike, and then did the was it 10K? Like 5-minute splits or something like that.
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
I'm like, dude,
he's a runner.
He is a runner for sure. And now he's like starting to get faster than me on the bike. And it's like, oh my God, come on, man.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
My daughter's faster than me in the pool.
So how do you balance all this? They clearly have your children clearly have very active schedules. You have a demanding training schedule, I would imagine, between competing, in the swimming and in triathlon.
Gosh, it takes a lot of planning. I have to know exactly that day what is on my schedule, and I have very small window to do something. So like, I know, like if I have a 2-hour bike, like I know I have to do that bike starting at this time or I will not get it in, you know? So it's never a negotiable for me. This is what I'm doing at, say, like 8 o'clock. I think with my kids' training schedule, so my daughter trains 16 hours a week and my son trains 14. We're at the pool all the time, so I use that time for training. Like this morning, my daughter had a 2.5-hour swim practice, so I got a swim and a run in this morning. So I use that time to do my training as well. Instead of just, a lot of the parents like to sit and watch, and I always disappear and end up working out. And then I work 10 shifts a month at the ER clinic, so I do get a 2-hour lunch break, so I go to the pool and I ride during that time as well.
I was going to ask if you still had a full-time job with all this going on.
Yeah, it's usually twice a week I work. Those are very tough days. I work 12 hours. So it's definitely, but I end up actually waking up earlier because my daughter has practice at 10 a.m. So I have a little bit of a gap there. I usually end up doing like mobility or my strength or whatever. Then I get ready for work. Then I go to work, and then I swim, and then I bike, and then I go back to work, and then I finish, and then I go run, and then I come home.
So your 2 shifts are back to back?
They can do whatever I want. So they let me pick my shifts. So
That's very accommodating.
Yeah, allows me to train and travel depending on the month. So, which is nice.
See, I had gotten it in my head that I'm like, hey, if I like start my own business or businesses, then like my schedule will be more flexible. And it just turned out that it's more haphazard, not more flexible.
Yeah.
It's like I somehow feel like I have less control than I did when I was working a full-time job.
Yeah.
And it took me a few months to realize that. I'm like, wow, bit off like this huge chunk trying to make 2 businesses like grow. And at the same time, I'm like somehow busier than I ever was.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's always a juggle, and you have to know what you're doing for that day. We do travel a lot for my kids too. So that ends up being me taking all of my training stuff with us.
So you travel with your bike too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my bike, my trainer, my swim stuff,
But no recent crushed bikes?
No recent crushed bikes. No, that frame is still down in the basement. I may fix it one day as a trainer bike, but...
I remember seeing your post on that, and I was like, oh my God, that sucks. And it was in a Bike Box Allen too, right?
Yeah, it was in a Bike Box Allen, and they cracked my chainstay, and they didn't really want to pay for even like an eighth of it. Yeah. So Trek work with me, and then of course, thank goodness for homeowners insurance too, to try and cover it. So
really, homeowners covered part of it?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, your incident inspired me to go out and get bike insurance.
Yeah. So they say get bike insurance, or if your homeowner's insurance covers it. So we made like the call, and we were like, we checked like 10 times throughout the year. We're like, you still cover the bike, right? They're like, yeah, we still cover the bike. I'm like, okay, just checking.
Yeah. Our agent was like, it should cover it, but we aren't sure because no one's asked before.
Then you need, bike insurance for sure.
Yeah, we're going to get secondary insurance. And and hopefully we're like fully covered.
I mean, secretly I was not happy about the event, but I was happy because then I got to do the colors of my bike the way I wanted it with Project One.
So what was it before? It was
it was just a stock color that I had gotten before, which I liked, but when I got it, I was like, it's not bright enough and colorful for me because I like color. And I kind of looked at my husband, I'm like, I like it, but I don't like love it. So when I got my blue bike that I have now, I'm like, I love it.
So yeah, I have two Project One bikes, the Speed Concept and a Madone that are painted the same. And I'm like, I don't think Trek still does that color combination.
Yeah.
That pastel tie-dye. And I'm like, if like something happened to one of those 2 bikes, I'd be devastated at this point.
Yeah, you'd have to get something different.
And like everyone knows me by the bike.
Yeah.
since I've been riding them for so long.
Yeah,
But now I love the Trek Project One
I do
kind of
too.
program.
I do too.
Now, did you get your name on your bike?
No,
Why-
I didn't. Well, I was dealing with the money that homeowner insurance gave me. So all the upsells, I was like, I had to like, because I wanted a lot of stuff. And they were like, oh,
I bet you
well, you
did.
have to pay more.
Yeah. The bike industry is good at upselling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I was like, it does have a sticker on it that says Dorito, though. It's not the same,
not the
but
same. Yeah,
not the
I was
same.
gonna get mine on, and then the dealership like talked me out of it. They're like, "Well, but what if you ever went to sell it?" And now I'm like, the odds of me ever selling this bike
Yeah, I know.
they're pretty low. They're pretty low.
I can't even sell my old bike, my old Shiv that I used to ride because I still love it. I don't even ride it, but I can't sell it. I'm just like, I like it.
I used to be a long track speed skater, and which explains why I'm good on the bike. We used cycling as cross training. The bike that I used in 2021 is
You still have
hanging
it?
on a wall in my garage.
Of
I can't get
course.
rid of it. I just can't get rid of it.
No.
And
I
it's
mean,
now, knowing what we know, it's too big for me. It's a steel frame with a carbon fork, so it's like super heavy compared to the bikes
yeah.
today, but you just can't get rid of it.
I mean, I still think about my very first bike that my husband taught me to ride on. It's an old Cervelo, and I sold it, and I still think about that bike. And I'm like, man, I really wish I still had it, but I sold it. So I'm
And
like, I'm not selling any more bikes.
out of curiosity, your SRAM or Shimano setup?
I'm sure I am.
SRAM.
Yeah. I like it.
I like it. And the thing I like the most about it is like, you carry a spare battery and like, you're never going to get stuck.
No, and I actually, when I race, put an extra battery in my front piece just in case. It's charged, just in case. You never know.
Yep.
In case. I've actually had at Xterra last year, I had somebody come up to me because my mountain bike also has to have batteries, and they were like, "Do you have an extra battery?" And I'm like, "Well, you came to the right person because I always have extra batteries." Because he couldn't race without it,
So I did once leave the house without batteries. So that sucked. Luckily, it was a very flat course. My now husband thought he was doing me a very nice favor by charging my batteries, and I didn't know it because I had already put newly charged batteries on the bike and didn't even look, and walked out of the house with no batteries attached to the bike. So now, like, it's the first thing I look at as soon as I walk out the door. It's like, is there batteries on the bike?
that'll always happen at least once. I did that a couple weeks ago, trail riding with my son, and I'm riding, and I'm like, "How are you faster than me?" And I look down, and I'm like, because I have no batteries on my mountain bike right now. Just like spinning. You're like, I'm not going anywhere.
All right, so I feel much better.
No, you're not.
Thank you for that. It's not just me.
No.
Yes, I felt like such an idiot. I'm like crap. And at least got into like the middle of the cassette, and yeah, like that
Yeah,
was
it'll
fun.
always happen at least once. There's always with triathlon so many things that you need. I mean, it's like, at Cozumel, I forgot my shoes. I'm like, who forgets their shoes? So it's like, I'm always forgetting something, because I am a person of habit. So like I did my last bike at home and put my shoes back where they belonged, not in my bag, not thinking I was leaving.
So before every race, I've gotten in the habit. I post on like Facebook or Instagram or wherever a photo of like all of my stuff by discipline, and people like are like, "Oh, this is so helpful. Thank you, blah blah." And I'm like, "No, this is so that I know I have everything."
Like, because once you put it in a bag, you're like, I think I put it in.
Well, right. And then if you're traveling, when you get there and there's that thing that you can't find, you can go back and be like, no, it's here somewhere. I know it because I have a picture of it.
Yeah. Although I have to say, I like the closer races where I can just put my bike together at home and then stick it in my car, because it's like when you travel and you fly, you're like having to have all the tools and, put your bike together. And I remember flying back from Cozumel and they took my bike tools because they said it was a weapon. and like my multi-tool, and they were all color coded of all the different sizes. It was so nice. And the guy was like, it's a weapon, and he hits it on the table and he's like, see? And I'm like, it's not a weapon.
I'm like, I can hit you on the table and it'll be a weapon.
It's a bike tool. So I lost it, and my husband's like, come on, Meg, let's go. It's fine. Just come on. We'll get another one. Yeah. But I was so sad. It's like...
So, that's always one of my fears is I take the, my bike doesn't fit in the bike box with the derailleur on it. Mm-hmm. So I take the chain and derailleur off, and that comes in my carry-on. I'm always...
They're going to take it from you?
Checking the TSA list. I'm like, chain is allowed in the carry-on, right? Because you would think that it's a weapon.
Yeah. But I mean, if you thought like this guy thought, like, I guess you could use anything as a weapon, you know, it's like, I mean, I had my GoPro stick. Like, that's like, you know.
I know. GoPro stick's like a pretty solid stick.
Yeah. Yeah. And they let us keep the GoPro stick, which was also in there, but not the bike tools. It was just like, great.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean, it's disappointing and frustrating, but was that on the way? That was on the way home, though.
That was on the way home. Yeah, it's always something at the airport. So I love that.
You know, it's better to happen on the way home than the way there.
Yeah, well, if I didn't have bike tools there, it'd be really sad. But it's always something when you fly. So I like the races that I can drive to, which aren't very many.
Yeah, I did Texas earlier this year. And I'm like, I don't know how people go and do these races by themselves. There's so much stuff to bring with you.
And I usually go by myself.
Yeah. And you try to get like the bike box so it's actually not 50 pounds overweight.
Yeah.
Which with the speed concept is next to impossible. Right. You know, it's the bike with the three wheels that are all set up tubeless. It weighs a ton.
It weighs a ton, yeah.
It weighs a ton. I think the closest I've come is like 53 pounds.
Oh, that's good. Usually I'm at like 58, 59. But yeah, it's tough when you go by yourself.
That's like taking the chain, the derailleurs, the everything off the bike and putting that in a carry-on. And I'm like, sometimes they try to weigh the box and you get hit with a fee, and other times it's like they're like, it's under 50, right? I'm like, yes, it is. Thank you for asking.
I always had PTSD walking away from my bike box at the airport because I'm like, somebody's going to look at that, right? Like, it's good. And they're like, oh, yeah, whatever. And they like shove it in the corner. I'm like, somebody watching that? I just terrified every time.
I like, to Philadelphia, at least for American, TSA will sometimes, most of the time, I think I've only had them say no once, let you stand there while they go through it. You have to stand like on the other side of this window. But like every time they open it, they're like, oh, it's not a mountain bike. This looks expensive. And I'm like giving them instructions, you know, on how to put it back together.
How to close it back,
So it closes and the frame's not broken when we get there. Yeah. And coming back from Nice, they didn't even open it. They're like, you don't have any CO2 cartridges in here, do you? I'm like, no. And then they put it through the x-ray machine and that was it.
Well, I don't know why they don't do that anyway. We're all bikers. We're like, we know you can't have CO2. Like, do you want stickies on it that says no CO2? Like, I don't have them in there.
Right.
You know?
Can they have like a TSA pre for bikes with no CO2 cartridges?
Bikes? Yeah, you're like, I promise, I swear on my life, you can take my house and children if I put a CO2 cartridge in here.
Right,
you know?
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's crazy because then they have to rip apart your bike and then they can't close it because they've moved stuff.
Right, and especially if you got like three wheels in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, and of
course
extra
wheels in the rump.
Yeah, and then I, of course, stick, like, sometimes my nutrition in there, depending on how heavy I am. And if you move that, everything is like a puzzle. So, like, if you mess it up, then it won't close. And I'm like, did you have to open it in the first place? But... Right.
So I do a lot of the Disney races, and some of them have yoga offered. And when you do it, you come back with this decent echelon yoga mat. One of those yoga mats is now filler inside of my bike box so that my helmet and stuff doesn't move around. And I'm like, please don't move that stuff. Like, it's okay. There's no liquids, there's no gels, there's
There's
no
nothing. Please
batteries,
don't
there's
move
no
it.
CO2 cartridges. Like, we're good. We're good. Just acknowledge that. Put your little paper in and call it a day.
It's yeah. So I feel like anytime you fly, it's definitely more anxiety. And I always end up flying by myself and traveling by myself because the kids always are at home, have school or something. So I have to lug suitcase and backpack and bike
I
through
was going to
by
say,
myself.
how much stuff, traveling by yourself, how much stuff do you end up taking with you?
I mean, a lot because always have my backpack, but it's like filled with like my helmet and, all of that stuff, plus my wetsuit. And then I always have my suitcase that I bring for, you need all your clothes and your training still. And then you got your bike, so it's tough. And I know at the Baltimore airport, we have to take a shuttle to actually get to check in. So I'm like trying to get my bike on a shuttle and everyone just looks at you. They're not like, hey, can I help you? They're looking at you like,
Oh, yeah. They're looking at you like, what is that? What's
yeah,
in that?
I'm like, you could
What is,
help me.
yeah. We have that in Philly from the parking lots. Unless you park like in the garage, you have to take a shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way. It's like you get on. I hate that. You get on, you're lugging at least one suitcase, your backpack, your bike
Your bike.
box, and trying to maneuver it all on. And
Yeah.
everyone's sitting, and there's no space for any of it.
Mm-hmm. I know. I've had some people say, hey, can you put your bike on this luggage rack? And I'm like, what? No, I can't. Like, I can't lift it. It's a bike.
Yeah. Do I look like I can lift this over my head?
You're like, no, you're just going to have to let it sit right here.
Yeah, where is it? I think it was Texas. I appreciate it on the shuttle. They the driver, I think it was Texas. The driver held everyone off, took all the there was 4 of us with bike boxes, took all the bike boxes on, and then let everyone get on. And I'm like, okay, that's at least more helpful.
Yeah.
Than trying to drag it. And you get one of those wheels over your foot, that hurts.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So, especially when you're by yourself trying to do all the things and people are like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah.
I'd be more okay if I had help.
Yeah, just saying.
So how far in advance of these races do you go out?
So I think I have my schedule for this year, although, it's always up for negotiation based on how I'm feeling and how the kids' schedule is, which is nice because that's one thing about the pro races is you can drop out like a week before the race if you need to. So I have Louisville in August and then Chattanooga full in September. I have hopes of doing Portugal in October and Arizona in November.
That's a lot of fall racing.
That's a lot of fall racing, which actually works better for me because I used to race in April, but my kids have championship swim month in March. So training was very, very difficult to get all the hours in, especially for a full. So I swore that off and was like, I'm not going to start racing till end of May or June. Of course, that's when my kids start their long course season and championship month is in July. So we actually are gone 3 of the 4 weekends swimming.
So it actually works out better doing it in the fall.
Yeah. So I'm a fall racer. Yep.
Most of the races I want to do are in the fall. Yeah. But so is World Championships. And I'm like, how do you make it? I'm like, I haven't figured out how to make it work.
Yeah. For me, I find that if I'm very stressed with life stuff, putting in a race is not beneficial for me. It's too much, so I'd rather focus on training and also balancing my kids' schedule until they're not racing as much. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
So you don't go out like weeks in advance and scope out the course and train, just kind of do it the way the rest of us do and head out when you can.
Or head out. Yeah, I actually try to go to the race the last minute possible just because logistic wise, like it's just stressful. Like for Eagleman, I stayed home until Friday.
Eagleman, how far from your house? Like 2 hours?
Yeah, like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So I actually really liked it, being home, less stress, less packing, so it depends on where I'm going. If I do a full, and it's far away, then I'll fly out like earlier. So it just depends on logistic wise, trying to fit everything in. But my kids always have first priority. Always.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Mm-hmm. Always. Like I'll drop a race if it means that my kids have something.
You know, I always thought that as they got older, it would be easier, but
No.
it's harder because they're more involved with stuff.
Yeah, and their races are bigger and they're further away. And, you know, it's like now we used to do like the local races a couple hours away. Now we're traveling to, you know, my daughter made nationals in August. So that's in Florida, you know, so we're just always all over the place, further, bigger now.
I don't have that problem yet with the races my kids are in, but hoping that the cross country takes my son to college.
Yeah, for sure.
But, you know, he travels with me to some of the foot races and then spends the next month complaining about how it set him back in his training for cross country. And I'm like, that's because you just did a half marathon and they're doing 2.5 miles at a time.
Yeah, so he's just far ahead, you know.
Right. But they're, you know, that's I think one of the challenges with like high school sports. The high school coaches, they have like how they want the kids to train and all the events. And the faster kids, of course, like, you know, they want them like at the top of their game for every race for the high school. It's like, okay, but is that the best thing for the kid, for the athlete? Like if he's hoping to someday maybe be like an Olympic marathon runner, is him only doing like high school 5K is the right thing to do?
It's tough because like I definitely hear what you're saying because we have a lot of logistics as far as like high school versus private club sports.
Mm-hmm.
Because private club sports, they tend to push that individual to, you know, higher tier competition based on like what they're able to do. High school's like, well, I need you to swim X, Y, and Z, you know, which may not be like your forte, but the team needs it or whatever. So there's a lot of controversy with us because a lot of our, like for swimming, for example, our high school won't allow club kids to swim. So they won't be able to do high school swimming.
Really? That seems kind of...
Yeah, they said that high school swimming practice takes priority over club and that they have to come to every high school practice and then they can go to their club practice when they're done. So I'm like, so you want them to train 5 hours a day in the pool? Like, that doesn't make sense, you know?
It feels excessive.
Yeah. So basically they just push away a lot of the club kids and they stay club swimming.
I mean, it feels like the high school loses in that game.
Yeah, big time.
Because the faster kids are going to go do the harder, more higher level competitions if they have a choice.
Yeah, and a lot of the high school kids they want to do high school because they want that atmosphere. They want to experience that. But they also want to stay club, so they want the integration of the two together. They want them to work together and be like, all right, you got to come to practice before meets, you got to come to all the meets, at least X amount of practices per week, but they won't do that. They won't mesh the two. So it's all or nothing, which doesn't seem...
I haven't seen it for the stuff we're involved in be spelled out quite as clearly, but like the notion is still there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we give the coach the list of all the races that the kid is doing, you know, over the summer. And then every time he does one, he gets yelled at for doing the race.
Yeah.
I'm like, the kid came in 5th place in a field of 22,000. Like, could we maybe like tell him he did a good job?
Or tailor his skills to do that kind of running, you know?
Right.
And because he's good at it. Like,
yeah, that it confused me. Like in track season, they moved him to the middle distance. And I'm like,
he's long distance.
Like he is not a short distance or middle distance runner. He is a long distance runner. And he's a quick long distance runner. Like, why are we putting him on middle distance again?
I mean, I guess I could see like making a child well-rounded in a lot of things. Yeah, because I know our kids have to swim all events, whether you're every stroke, every distance, like you are to swim everything. They don't pigeonhole you into anything.
If they did that in track, those meets would be even longer than they are. I miss
Yeah.
the middle school meets where they were like an hour and a half. Now they like start at noon and end at 9 p.m.
God.
And over the winter during winter track, it's like lo and behold, like it's always your kid that's in the last event.
Of course.
Like it's like, well, couldn't you have gotten here later? No, because I'm in the second event too.
So you have to stay the entire time.
Right,
It's
right.
cool.
So we're raising the future generation of endurance athletes here.
Yeah.
Like it just, to me, I always, I've watched you online. We've chatted a few times. I'm like, how does this lady like keep it all together when it's, you, your husband, your two kids compete, you compete, and you're all I think every day, I feel like every day you're somewhere new.
I think the biggest takeaways, my kids always come first. So my schedule and training are scheduled around them. They take top priority. I think it's important to always go away as a family that is non-sports related. So I always make a point that once or twice a year we go away just for vacation, because I think that is huge. I fill in the gaps, basically. Like every waking moment of my day is filled with something, and I also have a husband who is extremely helpful, and he's extremely accommodating, and he works with me, and he knows the kids' training schedule and mine, and okay, you got to go do your bike now. He's super supportive. So I couldn't do that without him.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of finishing out the conversation, let's talk about age group athletes. So you started as an age grouper, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you advanced. And so for the age group, because most of the audience is age group athletes, what advice do you have for them as they try to advance towards the front of the field? I think most age groupers don't aspire to be pros, but we'd all like to be faster, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest takeaway is consistency. I think that's like one of the biggest things that, just showing up every day, and not making excuses for why you can't fit in a swim or a bike or a run, and just adapting to that particular day. Like if you had a hard bike on the schedule, but you're not feeling it, then switch it to a recovery bike, and just showing up every day and being consistent. I think that's huge in progressing, just staying in the game, and then constantly being hungry for knowledge. Like, how can I do this better? How can I do this better? Talking to people. I feel like everyone has something to offer, advice wise, some that you can take to heart and some with a grain of salt, but constantly just staying hungry for knowledge in the sport. So I think that those are two huge things to stick with.
Those are great words of advice. Well, Meg, thank you very much for spending the time with me.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a great conversation. And look forward to seeing you at, what was your next race again? We talked about a lot of races.
Louisville.
So look forward to seeing you at Louisville.
Thank you.